I mean, one of the most common questions I get asked is this hype for real? You know, is this one of those, metaverse style hypes, or is AI really going to change the way we work? And I mean, the short answer for that is it is really going to change the way we work. And to kind of give you a picture of why, I mean, AI isn't new, right? We've at Hannah been using AI since we started over the last kind of seven years. But AI isn't new. But I do want to say what the fundamental shift has happened. If you look at the way AI algorithms operated, even 3 or 4 years ago, is essentially AI was the equivalent of a human with a very short attention span, right? So it could only really look at one thing at a time. So if we were using AI to translate a sentence, it would have to look at one word at a time. It couldn't look at all the words in parallel and understand the overall context. So it was a human with a very short attention span and a short memory. Now, with the new transformer model, which is the T in GPT, what that allows us to do is we now have the equivalent of a human that has a very big attention span and almost a never-ending memory. And what that means is we're now able to look at things in parallel, understand the context, retain the context, and apply it in future scenarios. So this is really a paradigm shift, and I think that's why it's taken over the global consciousness. Now, that doesn't mean the fundamentals change, right? It's like any other technology breakthrough we've seen prior to this, right? The tech helps us solve the problem, but it still means we need to start with the fundamentals of defining the problem and really making sure we're working on the right problem. And there's an incredible stat that McKinsey actually in a recent study showed that they've seen at least 56% adoption of AI in at least one business function. Yet only a fraction showed any financial benefits. So all of this story around, productivity gains, cutting costs, improving profits, actually, we're not seeing a lot of that. Now, what that says is people are really excited to use this shiny new toy. And that's great. We should play with shiny new toys, and it kind of inspires us and sparks our imagination. But that doesn't change the fact that unless you apply this new technology for a relevant problem, we're not actually going to see meaningful benefits. And that's where it kind of goes back to content first, right? A lot of the use cases we're seeing for AI right now in L&D is to create content faster and cheaper. Now, content, like I mentioned before, is never the problem. If you had the wrong L&D strategy in place, what you end up doing is pushing the wrong content to the wrong person at the wrong time. Now, imagine you still had the wrong strategy in place, but now you can create that wrong content faster and cheaper. All you're doing is scaling a problem faster and cheaper, right? Which actually makes the problem harder to solve, right? Because you've now got more of the problem that exists. And so as good as it is to play around with the tools, you don't want to play around with the tools to scale a problem that already exists. And so this is where we really need to go back to really understanding the problem we're solving. And like some of the best examples I've seen really of practicing love the problem, not the solution, is where some of the organizations we work with using AI to solve the skills mapping challenge, right? Because skills mapping, traditionally has required someone in your team or an external consultant to come in, sit with every head of department, find out what skills they need, find out the target proficiency, and often it sits in an Excel file gathering dust because no one uses the Excel file and it becomes redundant. I mean, that's a problem that AI is really great at solving, which prior technology wasn't as effective at solving. And we've really seen customers use this. And so the takeaway is to be intentional. And by being intentional, it's making sure you start with the problem first, then look at whether it's the right tool. And you really need to be cautious about trying to incorporate AI for the sake of incorporating AI. I mean, the C-suite are not going to give you any brownie points because you used AI to scale the problem.